Welcome to Chabad YouTube. Uh, we're continuing lessons in Kuntreis Heichaltzu. For those of you that are watching my videos, smash that like button and share. It's another way of showing Ahavas Yisrael, loving your fellow Jew. And just now, we just discussed that you should basically shouldn't have every chapter is always going into the same topic of not showing self love towards yourself, but you should acknowledge the good in one another, and you should see the positive qualities that he has, and you should make an what is it? You sh- you should basically just have humility and basically if you make room for other people, you should if you need to rebuke somebody, one that truly loves them will do it in privacy and not do it in public. Uh, Often people will discuss important ideas in a Fabringen, so to speak, and now we're just going forward. In the previous chapters, the Rebbe Rashab discussed the flaw of yeshus, selfishness, how it leads to baseless hatred, as well as friction and strife and prevents fruitful interaction between people. Although he will return to that theme, he devotes this and the following chapter to the discussion of desirable approaches to divine service. So before we're discussing the negative, now he wants to get into the positive. V'hine kasher yadua asher ba'avoida yeshnam veis oifane avoida. As is well known, there are two approaches to divine service. Olive avoida besimcha, divine service through joy, and divine service through humility. This chapter will discuss the first, the Hainu ke shemaskil umis boisein. Umis boinen heitev bigdulas Hashem. Joy in divine service can be attained by understanding and meditating thoroughly upon the greatness of God. As everybody knows, this is also how you dive into Hashem every day. When one contemplates on the greatness of Hashem, he's able to properly dive into Hashem. In fact, they go hand in hand together. One cannot properly daven unless he says, Hareini mikabel lai mitzvah seishel v'yavta kamoicha. In the morning, he makes a commitment to love his fellow as himself, and he gives tzedakah. That's true Ahavas Yisrael right there. Hein boitzim gedula soy b'inyan habariya yesh me'ayin chuli. For example,
Got back to Syracuse already?
once-
I'm on my way.
Oh wow, he was just in Crown Heights and 2 hours ago.
okay, Chaim, right now we're talking in the mimer that we're trying to focus on the positive about Ahavas Yisrael, not talking about what's wrong about everything, but the positive approach to serve Hashem is to contemplate on Hashem's greatness, like what you do before davening. For example, His awesome greatness is expressed in the creation of existence, yesh, from absolute nothingness, ayin, yesh ma'ayin. We learn in Tanya that Hashem is creating the world every second, and if He would stop creating the world, we would cease to exist. And just knowing this, we should serve Hashem with happiness. Hashem is giving us a beautiful and wonderful life, and we should appreciate what Hashem gives us and not complain. One thing I can agree with what Rabbi Boaz said in one of the classes was a lot of the problems we had in the desert was from the complaining. So when you when you contemplate on the greatness of Hashem, you're not going to complain. You're going to say thank you, and you're going to daven. You're going to daven, and you're going to treat your fellow Jew very well. Kimoy shekasuv b'makoim acher, as explained in another source. Dilvad zois ma she'etzem inyan biriya yesh me'ayin hu inyan nifla. Aside from the fact that the creation of existence from nothingness is a wondrous matter. She'ein leha dam shum tziur al ze klal chuli kimoy shekasuv b'makoim acher, that man simply cannot imagine as stated in another source. Since man is part of the creation, there is no way he can see beyond his frame of reference and truly appreciate how that creation comes into being from non-existence. Ayin ma shekasuv mizeh b'dibur hamaschil samach te samach reish nun zayin b'sechilasoy. See the beginning of the mimer entitled Samach 5657. See. I never heard of that. Hey, Rabbi Phil, you ever heard of that mimer?
Tzedek's mimer?
Huh?
Tzedek's mimer.
Samach to Samach.
Yeah, it's one of the Tzedek's mimer. He wrote it for one of his students.
Oid zeis yesh bezeh pila ois.
Tzedek would write. No, the Mittel Rebbe would write for each student a different mimer, and the Tzedek would do the same thing. He would write certain mimers for different kinds of people. And he made 4 derechs with 4 different ways, and one of the things is that book.
So that was a mimer within Derech Mitzvah Sechta?
In Derech Mitzvah it talks about that mimer, but there is a separate mimer.
Oid zeis yesh bezeh pila ois. Moreover, it involves several wondrous dimensions that are utterly beyond our comprehension. So on one hand, we're supposedly happy that Hashem is creating the universe, and we understand that Hashem is constantly creating it, and we have awe and humility and joy through it. But on the other hand, we're simple humans, and we can't truly understand Hashem because he's beyond our cognitive faculties. We can't really contemplate Hashem. He's beyond our scope of reality. Diyadua, Divariya, Yesh, Me'ayin, Hu, Bivechinas, Rihuk, Ha'erech. As is well known, the creation of existence, Yesh, from nothingness, Ayin. Yesh Me'ayin involves bringing into being something that is of an utterly different nature than the divine creative energy that brings it into being. There's a gap between them to the extent that they are distant from each other with no point of comparison between them. See, the difference between Hashem making something and when we make something is completely different. Because for example, people work together and build a house or whatever, they build something or they're making food, they're not doing anything but taking objects that were already created by Hashem and changing the form of them. So you're really making the concept be yesh miyesh, something from something. Whereas Hashem, when he creates the universe, it's literally something from nothing. Yesh ma'ayin. Dezehu hahev reish bein ilah ve'ilul libria yesh me'ayin. This constitutes the difference between a cause and effect relationship, ilah va'alul, and the creation of existence from nothingness. The ilah ve'alul hu bechinas hashpa bekeruv. The relationship between cause and effect involves influence transferred through closeness. An example, the cause and the effect of it brings about are similar entities and imparts a direct influence on the other, triggering the effect. The most common example given in Hasidic thought in the relationship between intellect and emotion, see below. When one understands the value and the good that a particular entity will bring, this being the cause, he is aroused with feelings of love for that entity, the effect. Shalila mislabesh behalul. Thus, the cause is enclosed in the effect. In the example given, the awareness of the entity's value and good in a person's mind spurs him to love it. So when you contemplate all the goodness and positive things within your fellow Jew, he has a soul. He has the same father as you. He was created by Hashem as well. And you just look for only the good. You're literally doing the opposite of your Yetzer Hara when you're just looking for the bad. Then you could truly have a Havas Yisrael. The idea is to look for the good. Ve'alul margish es ilasoy. And the effect senses the cause. The person's feelings of love are motivated by his awareness of the value of the entity's value, and the force of the feeling is dependent on the strength of that awareness. Therefore, the effect produced is comparable to the cause which brought it into being. The relationship between them is apparent. Ma she'ein kain behis havus yesh me'ayin. In contrast, creation of yesh me'ayin, bringing to being something from nothing. Shehahis havus hu be'ein aruich. Brings about an existence that is incomparable to its godly source. Ve'im kain hu hahashpa bivichinas richuk ha'erech. As such, the influence that brings the world into being creates distance. Shahaboire misalem umistater mehanivra. Concealing the creator from the creation. A created being does not have a conscious awareness that there is a creator. On the contrary, he feels his own being and does not know of anything else. God God's creative force is not enclosed in the creation as a cause is enclosed in the effect. When a cause brings about an effect, the cause remains a cogent factor within the effect. The Rebbe Rashab uses the term enclosed because clothes are fitted to reflect the form of the wearer. When the force which brings about a result is enclosed within it, its presence can be perceived, recognized, and in certain instances, even measured. By contrast, the presence of the divine creative force cannot be appreciated in the existence it brings about. There is no way it can be recognized. V'gam behechrach loimar. Paradoxically, however, it also must be said, Shehakoyach ha'eloki ha'hamhaveh hu tamid besoich hanivra ve'al yidei zehu b'mitzius yesh. That all the divine creative force is constantly present within the created being, and as a result, it comes into being and continues to exist. As we mentioned earlier, very beginning of this chapter, Hashem is constantly creating the universe, and as a result, every single person is constantly continuing to exist. Be'im haya mistalek mimenu chas v'sholom. If the divine creative force were to depart from it, heaven forbid, haya nase ayin ve'efes chuli. The created being would return to a state of utter nothingness. To explain the last statement, ki mitzius hayesh hu davar chadash. Yesh, material existence is something new. Even the potential for it did not exist beforehand. V'chol hischadshus tzarich liyos boy hamechadesh tamid. Ve'im love yisbatel hachidush kuli. Yesh, material existence is something new. Even the potential for it did not exist beforehand. And whenever a new entity is brought into being, the force which brings it into being must constantly be present within it to maintain its existence. V'im love yisbatel hachidush kuli. If not, the new entity will return to its original state of nothingness and cease to exist. To illustrate by way of analogy frequently used in Chassidus, by throwing a stone upward, one causes it to move against the influence of gravity. Its upward movement is thus a new development and will continue only as long as the force invested by the person throwing the stone is present. When that force dissipates, the stone will fall to the ground. Similarly, in the analog, before creation, this physical realm did not exist, nor is there any basis for its existence. Hence, its existence is maintained only because the creative force which gives its existence present. This unique paradox does not exist in the case of a cause and effect relationship. Take, for example, the cause and effect relationship between intellect and emotion. שאפשר להיות עמידה גם כשיש כעס הטעם. It is possible for the emotion to continue to exist even after the logic which prompted it has been forgotten. והיינו מפני שהעמידה בעצם אינו דבר חדש. For although it is caused by the intellect, the emotion is not in essence a new entity that comes into being from absolute nothingness. Strictly speaking, it is not the idea that brings the emotion into being. It is merely a catalyst that calls forth its expression. V'haisa koidem gam kain. In potential, the emotion existed beforehand. Well, you think you're the first one to get angry? Think you're the first one to be sad or happy? The emotions existed from much longer before us. ולכן אפשר להיות עמידה גם כשיש כך es hatam chuli. Therefore, the emotion can continue to exist even after the reason that evoked it has been forgotten. It's usually another emotion will come about, or another situation will come about, or something will cause the person to remember that. The statement here that the emotion can continue to exist after the logic which prompted it has been forgotten is not a contradiction to the previous statement that a cause is present and clothed within the effect. For an emotion to be live and vibrant, it is necessary that the thought prompting it be felt. However, since the emotion is fundamentally a separate potential, it can continue to exist, albeit with far less energy, even after the initial thought is forgotten. Nevertheless, a trace of the original motivating concept remains, although hidden. As stated in another source, in the case of creation, yesh me'ayin, by contrast, liyoshehu hischadshus tzarich liyos hamechadesh tamid ve'az davka kiyum mitziusoi chuli. In the case of creation, yesh me'ayin, by contrast, because a new entity is being created, the creative force renewing it must constantly be present. Only then will its existence be maintained. In order for us to exist, Hashem has to constantly be thinking about us, or, his whole speaking into words for creation. Whatever he does to create the world, he has to constantly be doing it, or we will cease to exist. V'nimsa yesh b'zeh v'es inyanim havkim shehu b'vechinas Rihuk Ha'erech. This then is the paradox of creation. There is both a tremendous gap, with no similarity or point of comparison between the creation and the creator. Umikol makoim oimid hakoyach ha'eloki tamid b'chol nivra v'nivra. Yet simultaneously, the divine force is constantly present within every individual creation. Mashekazu le'olam Hashem divarcha nitzav kashamayim chuli. Bashamayim chuli. As it is written, forever, O Lord, your word stands in the heavens. As explained in Tanya Shar HaYichud Be'amuna chapter 1. Your word, by the way, that's the third book of lessons in Tanya. Your word refers to the 10 utterances of God's speech which brought the world into being. His speech must constantly be present in the creation to maintain its existence, as explained briefly here and at length in Tanya there. Unikudas inyan yesh me'ayin mechayev shenehem chuli. The fundamental dynamic of creation, yesh me'ayin, necessitates the existence of both these seemingly opposite concepts. As stated initially, focusing one's thoughts on the wondrous paradox is one example of how meditation can lead to joy and avoida. Oy kishemis boynen bigdulas v'roimamus ha'ein soif mitzad atzmoid. Alternatively, another meditation that will arouse feelings of joy is contemplation on the intrinsic greatness and exaltedness of the Infinite One. Asher ligdula soy ein heker chuli, whose greatness is unfathomable. In contrast to the previously explained meditation that focuses on God's greatness in creation, an example, the expression of its potential to bring about existence and the wondrous paradox that this involves, the meditation described here focuses on the essential greatness, who is He Hashem. Umamik daitoi meoid behahis boinenus. When one thinks very deeply about this concept, meditating upon it, ad sheniklat venispas ha'inyan etzloi hetev, until he grasps and comprehends it thoroughly, ad sheha or ha'eloki be'oitzem gedulasoi veroimimusoi, to the point where godly light in all its greatness and exaltedness meir be begilui benafshoi di reichait pun elokus is meir benafshoi chuli. An example, the richness of godliness shines in a revealed manner within his soul. Be'az yismach benafshoi me'oid shezehu inyan simchas hanefesh ba'Hashem oiseh v'yidbak nafshoi be'elokus bidvika v'chashika v'nefesh shoikeka huli. The soul. So, this is the joy of the soul in God, its maker. The soul will cling to godliness with yearning and desire, thirsting for godliness. Uvedere klal hu inyan ha'avoida me'ahava. As a whole, both of these meditations lead to the avoida that stems from love. Shehu bechinas devekus hanefes v'simchasa al havaya. As a whole, both these meditations lead to the avoda that stems from love, that results in the soul's clinging to God and its rejoicing in godliness. Uchmoy simchas ha'ohev al ha'ahuv chuli. Kimoy shekasuv b'makoim acher. So that results in the soul's clinging to God and its rejoicing in godliness, as one who loves rejoices in his beloved, as explained elsewhere. Kitzer, the summary. Avoida b'simcha mehis boinenus bigdulas havaya. Divine service through joy resulting from one's meditation on the greatness of God. Mitzad atzmoy oi mitzad bi habariya. So focus on either on his inherent greatness or the manifestation of his greatness in creation. Yesh me'ayin mechayev shehu be'ein aruch. Creation yesh me'ayin necessitates a wondrous paradox that on one hand the creation and the creator are utterly incomparable, there being an infinite gap between the creator and the creation. V'sheham haveh nimsa tamid behamiz haveh. And yet, simultaneously, there is an ongoing bond between them, because the creator must constantly be present within the created being. Contemplating this fills a person with wonder and joy. God's inherent greatness refers to his existence unto himself, as it were, how he exists without any connections to the worlds he brings into being. When a person meditates on this concept, he feels an encompassing desire to cling to God and bond with him. This yearning produces tremendous satisfaction. And that's the end. Literally an hour.
And that's what you like doing, getting satisfaction from connecting with Hashem.
Well, the idea of a Havis Yisrael is not to focus
To
on
get
what's wrong.
satisfaction.
The idea of having proper Havis Yisrael is not focusing on what's bad about the other person and focusing on what one shouldn't do. Although that is true, you should know what not to do. But you should have such love for Hashem that it gives you a sense of love inside yourself that when you appreciate everything Hashem does for you and everything that your fellow beings do for you, then you'll reciprocate and do good things for other people and only act with love instead of hate. Then you will love your fellow as yourself, and you will not do to others you don't want done to you. That's the first approach. I think that's the opposite of the last month we're in. What was it? We're supposed to be sad because of, what was it? It was Menachem, the Beis Hamikdash. Now we're supposed to be completely joyous, back to being normal Chabadniks. But Rabbi Peel and I remember that time in 770. We were all happy. It was the 9 days for bringing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, hi, Connor. I think Connor should give a class. She should get a lot of views.
Blah, 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 blah.
Remember we did with the ties? We both wore light up ties.
Yeah.
We got like 7,000 views.
Yep. Who's that? That's Chaya Mushka. That's Tema Bluma.
And Shakulov's here now.
Huh?
Shakulov joined the chat.
That's cool. Maybe Shakulov will find his shidduch soon also.
That's B'Shem Hashem. Shakulov is ready. He is fully ready. I met a nice Asian girl for him today.
I'm gonna end the recording now, but